leg. So $1.80 around Highlad. Of course, some good racing coming up following this. I thought race 5, an interesting maiden race over 1,600 metres, where we got a pretty decent push from Mark Duplessis around Glenda Lock, a runner for Peter and Dawn Williams. Race 6, the 75 over 2,100 metres, we see in that race Kachi, who's been a big shortener throughout the card. 340, 320, 280, 260, now 240. Peso from the Paul Nelson stable's been running terrific races. Also coming through the one horse for the Logan Gibbs stable and Excalibur too. So that's a highlight for the card, race 6. And then we rounded out with a competitive 65 over 1,200 metres, and then that 75 over 1,500 metres for the 8th. But they're almost ready to go with Francis Drake, the last to be loaded into the barriers. Let's hand it back up to George.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. As the last of the 4 goes forward, that is Francis Drake, and they're locked and loaded, and immediately they're off. And Highlad came out awkwardly from the inside, and Matt Cameron was almost dislodged from the saddle, but after 200 metres it's going to be Victory Drive. He's going to take up the roller pacemaker and will do so at its own leisure as well. In second spot is Highlad with El Soldado third on the outside at the judge with a lap to go, and 2.5 away Francis Drake. He's back last of the 4 for Opie Bosson. So out of the straight they go as they head out towards the 1,700 metres mark, and the leader is Victory Drive at nothing more than a hand canter, leads by 3/4 of a length from El Soldado, second up on the outside, and trailing third along the inside is Highlad. And Francis Drake is just minding his own business back at the tail of the field as they head to the 1,400 metres mark, and the 4 of them, it's a real cat and mouse affair here. And it's Victory Drive for Danielle Johnson, leads by 3/4 of a length. The $600,000 earner El Soldado is second up on the outside, and still trailing third is Highlad, who is ridden by Matt Cameron, and still 4th of the 4, Francis Drake. No one really keen to move at this stage. 1,000 metres to go, and this seems to be taking an age here. The pacemaker is Victory Drive, leads by 3/4 of a length. You reckon it'll be a sprint home? In second spot is El Soldado, still 2 lengths away. Third on the inside is Highlad, and Francis Drake alongside of it. There's only 2.5 covering them now as they come down the side. 700 metres to go, and the DUNSTAN Feeds Championship qualifier. And now they start to run along. It's Victory Drive, the leader, a half length in advance of El Soldado. Francis Drake on the improve, out 3 wide, and Highlad is just biding its time, and behind them now they sprint. Into the straight they come, 400 metres to go. Victory Drive, the leader. Francis Drake out to challenge out in the centre. Highlad looking to weave between the two, and dropping off them now El Soldado at the 200 metres. Highlad ranged up to Victory Drive, and they beat off Francis Drake. Further back El Soldado. It's Highlad at the 100 metres in front here for Matt Cameron, and Highlad will beat the stablemate Victory Drive. Third over will be Francis Drake, and El Soldado was 4th of the 4 in the 3rd on the card.
So Highlad takes the race out, and look, he was able to sit back, and stablemate rolled forward in the race in Victory Drive, and once he got out and got mobile, he was too good, and he powered away from the rest of his opposition, and stablemate stuck on gamely. Francis Drake has tried to make his move into the race, but when they started to quicken up front, he just couldn't quite go with them, and he's finished into 3rd spot. And El Soldado will finish into 4th, 4, 5, 2 and 1. They had half the field, and they run the Quinella to the Baker Forsman team. Why don't you, Andrew? Look, he's sat in behind them, and look, he's worked through the gears nicely to be able to pick up the stablemate.
It was a good effort. Obviously, they only went slow pace, which I guess they were always going to, but really happy with the way he sort of had to stop, switch ground, and really hit the line hard.
What do you do with a horse like this now? What sort of targets can you have with him? I know that you've targeted big races as a 3-year-old. What's in mind for them for this season?
Just obvious cups races that are coming up. He's still well enough off in the weights, and he's just climbing his way up there, so probably something like the Avondale Cup perhaps next time.
And I suppose just nice that he's got himself back into winning form again.